Did you know that the Black Death caused the end of feudal society in Europe? Hello and welcome to World History Encyclopedia. My name is Kelly and today's video is all about the Black Death in medieval Europe. We're going to have a look at the cause, the spread, and the consequences of the worst plague in human history. Don't forget, the easiest way to support us is by giving this video a thumbs up, subscribing to our channel, and hitting that bell icon for notifications so you don't miss out on any new uploads. World History Encyclopedia is a non-profit organisation and you can find us on Patreon, a brilliant site where you can support our work and receive exclusive benefits in return. Your support helps us create videos twice a week, so make sure to check it out via the pop-up in the top corner of the screen or via the Patreon link down below. The Black Death was a truly devastating plague that ravaged medieval Europe between 1347 and 1352, killing somewhere between 25 and 30 million people. There are three types of plague: the bubonic plague, the pneumonic plague, and the septicemic plague. And it's more than likely that all three of them were present in the Black Death pandemic, with the bubonic plague being the most common of the three during the 14th century outbreak. The bubonic plague causes swelling of lymph nodes in the groin and the armpits, which then take on a sickening black colour, which is where the name Black Death came from. Along with the black sores known as buboes, which is where the name bubonic comes from, the infected would also suffer from fever and joint pain. In 14th century Europe, 2/3 of those who became infected died from the disease, often within 72 hours. The disease reduced Europe's population by around 1/3 and caused major changes in the medieval social structure. The disease was brought to Europe by rodents that carried fleas with the bacillus bacterium Yersinia Pestis. The Black Death entered Europe most probably via Sicily, where 4 rat-infested Genoese ships had docked, arriving from Caffa in the Black Sea. The city of Caffa had been under siege by the Tartar Mongols, who had catapulted infected corpses into the city. And it was from there that the Italians picked up the plague, with the ships stopping first at Sicily, then Marseille and Valencia. The Mongols had brought the disease via the Silk Road from its origin point in Central Asia. By the end of 1349, the disease had spread through trade routes to France, Spain, Britain, and Ireland. And from there, it spread like absolute wildfire to the regions of Germany, Scandinavia, the Baltic states, and Russia. Whenever a case of the plague popped up, people fled, and that simply caused the disease to spread further, not to mention the continued spread by the rats. It definitely didn't help that the medieval level of sanitation was less than ideal, and pretty appalling compared to modern standards. People were dying faster than they could be buried, and carts piled with corpses became a common sight across Europe during this time. It seemed that all they could do was stay put, avoid other people, and pray. The doctors of medieval Europe had absolutely no idea how the plague started, what caused it, or how it spread, which meant they were pretty much at a loss on how to treat it or prevent others from catching it. Since they didn't know about the rats and the bacteria, the medieval Europeans thought it may have been caused by the wrath of God or the work of the devil, maybe from the alignment of the planets or unbalanced humours of the body. Their lack of knowledge on what caused the plague didn't stop people from trying to figure out how to cure it, and the different categories of cures that were developed were all mostly either ineffective or even fatal. These categories are animal cures, medicine such as potions, fumigation, bloodletting and pastes, flight from infected areas and persecution of marginalized communities, religious cures, and quarantine. Only the last of these, only quarantining and staying away from those infected, really had any effect on stopping the spread of the plague. Animal cures included using animals to try and cure the patient, with one of the most popular being the vicary method, which had a chicken's back and rear plucked, then the bare part of the live chicken was applied to the swollen nodes, and the chicken was strapped on until it started to get sick. It was believed the chicken was drawing the sickness out of the diseased person, This would continue until either the chicken or the person died. They also cut up snakes and would rub various parts of it on the buboes to draw out evil, since the snake was synonymous with Satan. Another animal sought after was the unicorn, with the belief that ground up unicorn horn mixed with water to be drunk was an effective remedy. I wonder how many fake unicorn horns were sold. There were other potions than just the unicorn horn, with doctors recommending eating or drinking a small amount of crushed emeralds. Only the wealthy could afford the emeralds, so the poor would drink arsenic or mercury, which killed them even faster than the plague would have. One of the best known potions was a combination of cider, vinegar or wine with spices such as sage, clove, rosemary and wormwood, among others, known as the Four Thieves vinegar, because it was allegedly created and used by four thieves who would drink it and then rob the homes of those dying from the plague without getting them themselves. The most popular potion among the wealthy was theriac, which apparently was very difficult to prepare and had up to 80 ingredients, including quite a lot of opium. It was also believed that clearing the air and fumigating homes with incense could help, since people thought the plague could be spread by bad air. People carried flowers and held them up to their face, not only to perhaps mask out the smell of death, but also to fumigate their lungs. Another popular remedy was bloodletting, which was belief that drawing out bad blood that caused illness would then be restored by good blood, with the most popular method of this being with leeches. Pastes and creams were made out of roots, flowers and herbs, but also human waste, which would have only led to infection. The wealthy had the option to leave the affected city or region and would flee to their countryside villas away from the death and the sickness. Since the medieval church pretty much set the worldview for the people at this time, there were numerous religious cures like amulets and charms, fasting, prayers, attending mass, participating in religious processions, and public floggings. But the Pope stopped the public floggings eventually, saying they were ineffective and making people upset. With such widespread devastation, both the governmental and religious authorities were questioned. How could such a disaster befall so many people? The people had questions like, where did this sickness come from? Why did so many people fall ill? Were the sinful governors or a just God responsible? Some people thought it was a supernatural phenomenon, others blamed sinners, and some thought the devil was the cause. The plague spread completely unchecked, and some parts of Europe were hit harder than others. With medieval writers greatly exaggerating the death toll, it can be hard to get an accurate number for the death toll. Some cities like Milan dodged the worst of it, but others like Florence were completely devastated by it, with the city losing at least 50,000 of its 85,000 person population, and Paris, where it was said they were burying 800 people a day. With some cities being hit harder than others, the estimated death toll is between 25 and 30 million people between 1347 and 1352, which represented around 30% of the total population. And it wouldn't be until 200 years later, in 1550, that the population of Europe would return to its levels from before the Black Death. With such a huge decrease in population, European medieval society as a whole was seriously affected. In the feudal system, serfs were bound to the land and were essentially owned by their masters. This system completely broke down, with the serfs who were left to work the land now being free to ask for wages, and they also had the freedom to move and work elsewhere since farmers and labourers were in high demand. This breakdown of serfdom and feudalism was followed by social unrest and rebellions when the aristocracy tried to fight the demands of the workers. After the end of the plague, there were smaller outbreaks which were less severe than the first. Daily life began to improve, especially since there was less competition for resources and land, and women gained some rights of property ownership that they didn't have before the plague. Like if they had lost their husbands, they could keep the land in some instances until they were remarried, and in others, they didn't lose it at all. The shock of such devastation to the medieval European social structure was a major factor in the transition from the Middle Ages to the early modern period. How do you think the world would fare if a similar plague were to hit us today? Let us know what you think in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel so you don't miss out on our new videos every Tuesday and Friday. This video was brought to you by World History Encyclopedia. For more great articles and interactive content, head to our website via the link below. If you like my shirt, you can find this design and a bunch more at our shop at worldhistory.store, or you can find a link for it down below. Thank you so much for watching, and we will see you soon with another video.